Hi, everybody. I want to talk about the narrative rubric. You will notice that these lines look pretty familiar. What am I looking for with narrative writing? Well, a writing that tells a compressed moment with a clear meaning. So remember, this should not cover a long period of time. It should be a couple of minutes. The most important part of the story. And so don't tell me about the whole trip to Florida. Tell me about the most important thing that happened to you. It needs to have a clear meaning. So clear, so what? Why? What did you learn from this? Why are you telling us this story? It needs to have dialogue that sounds authentic. Remember, dialogue does not have to be grammatically correct. It needs to have clear chronological time that flows smoothly. So using good transitions to show the movement of time. And the point of view and verb tense need to remain consistent. So if you start with I, you need to stay with I. And if you start telling us the story in past tense, you need to stay in past tense. Okay, so that's something that tends to happen is students start out talking about the story in past tense, but then they get into the storytelling and they switch to present tense. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that if you tell it start in past, you stay in past. Okay, presentation, that's that MLA stuff, that your paper is in the correct MLA format. Word choice is something we've already had, that you use powerful vocabulary that avoids cliche. Your words feel natural, so you don't choose, big vocabulary words that don't really flow into the sentence. That you choose strong verbs and precise nouns. So we know who she is, who he is, what it is. Really, you shouldn't use it at all. We want to avoid that if at all possible. And then that the meaning is clear to the reader, so that there aren't places where I'm saying, what did you mean here? What does this word mean? What does the sentence mean? So that's what we're looking for with word choice. Finally, voice. So you use a tone that is clear. We want to hear personality in your writing. We've talked about the difference between voice and tone. And remember, tone is your attitude about the subject. So we want to have a clear attitude. How do you feel about the topic you're writing about? But it does need to be appropriate. We want a very clear so what. Why are you telling us this story? And we want to see then that the details you include in the story are all focused on that so what you're trying to get across. Okay, we want to hear your passion, your interest, your excitement for this topic. So make sure that you choose a good word choice that is clear, that is authentic, that sounds like you as a writer. And we're not writing a research paper for this paper, right? It doesn't need to be this like stuffy, informal, very formal type of writing. It should sound like you. And then that your voice matches your purpose and has some kind of unique perspective. So you're not telling me the same kind of story I've heard 100 times. You in your storytelling should offer some kind of unique perspective because this is your story. So we want to see how your experience is different than anybody else's experience. I have put an example out there, so make sure that you take a look at that narrative example. Hopefully that helps a little bit. But also make sure that it matches your purpose. So if you're writing to inform us, it should sound informational. If you're writing to persuade us, it should sound persuasive. If you're writing to entertain us, then it should be entertaining. And most of the time we write narrative to entertain. And so that's what it needs to sound like. Think about you're telling the story sitting around a campfire, and your job is to keep people's attention and entertain them for a little while to pass the time. So make sure that your voice sounds like that. All right. So also remember that just to say that you tell the story to entertain does not mean it has to be funny, right? We can entertain people with sad stories, scary stories, very deep, sort of soul-searching kind of stories. To entertain just means to hold their attention. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about telling story. So we want to hear your voice. We want to hear a voice that's appropriate to your audience, and we want to hear a clear so what and a commitment to your topic. All right. Have a great one.